There are few characters in fiction that have captured imagination and have touched fans in huge ways. Characters like the Joker, Sherlock Holmes, James Bond, characters that aren't just fun characters to read and to watch, but there is also something that makes them stand out in their own story. For me, one of those characters is Long John Silver.
Long John Silver.
John Silver.
Mr. Silver.
Mr. Silver, sir.
Long John Silver, at your humble service.
I have loved this character through all forms of media. As a former actor, it was a role I always wanted to play. He is everything a young boy wants to be, a pirate with a spirit of adventure.
A gentleman of fortune, says most.
A ruthless pirate with a heart of gold. And with my channel being about animation films, we are going to talk about my favourite version, the cyborg himself in Treasure Planet.
Bring in such fine-looking distinguished gents to grace my humble galley. Had I known, I'd have tucked in my shirt.
You see, Treasure Planet takes the famous book of the one-legged man and makes him a cyborg. This instantly makes the classic way we see pirates with peg legs and twists it with a space steampunk feel. The character is no different, and yet it instantly feels unique to fit in his own world. It does enough to make the character unique, but he isn't too different from the original source material. What makes Silver stand out is right from the start we know he's the villain of the story. From Billy Bones telling us to beware of the cyborg, to even Jim's initial distrust of him. We are told by the characters not to trust this guy, and yet, there's something so different about him. We are introduced to Silver, and what is he? Well, he's the cook. He isn't high-ranking on the ship. His cyborg style and loss of limbs shows that he has been involved in some form of violence, but he uses his cyborg arm as a tool to cook. You can see he has a passion for something that isn't, well, it isn't very violent. I could always see Silver as actually having a passion about cooking, as it makes Silver not just a villain with a motivation of treasure and greed, but as someone who has knowledge and passion about something which is rudimental. This shows us that Silver is more layered than your stereotypical villain, and we then get to see that Silver has a reputation within the crew, as he helps Jim with his dispute with Mr. Scroot. Despite after showing that Silver only helped Jim due to the possibility of Scroot messing up the plan and their identity being discovered, when Jim thanks him for it, he is shown to be genuinely humbled and is curious to Jim's character. So not only do we know that Silver can be passionate, ruthless, and sympathetic, like Jim, we don't know how to feel about Silver's character, as we know he's the villain, but we kind of like him for it. Silver's role, not only in Treasure Planet, but in all the other forms of media he's been in, is the relationship he has with Jim. Silver becomes a father figure for Jim, which is the reason Jim and the audience blindly trust him, as we know Silver is passionate about sailing and has knowledge to pass on to Jim. He's a figure Jim needed for someone who doesn't leave him like his father does, but also, he's someone for Jim to tell him he's worth something. Throughout the I'm Still Here montage, we see that Jim has the knowledge to be a spacer, but has never had anyone to praise him enough to make him feel self-worth. But even though he is battered down by failure and wanted to feel that he belongs somewhere, we then get one of the greatest speeches in cinema history.
You got the makings of greatness in you, but you gotta take the helm and chart your own course. Stick to it, no matter the squalls. And when the time comes, you get the chance to really test the cut of your sails and show what you're made of. Well, I hope I'm there, catching some of the light coming off you that day.
Wow. Look, in terms of Disney, we have had a very small amount of anti-villains, but none such like this. Never before has the villain touched the characters and the audience in such a poignant way. This right here is what makes Silver such a compelling and interesting character. To tell someone that they are worth something, that they make their own story, to stick to their guns and follow through with their own actions. It's one of the most powerful lessons to ever come out of Disney. And to top it all off, we have this conflict within Silver, as he is worried the crew is going to see Silver for who he is. In one hand, he has his lifelong obsession with the treasure, and in the other, a genuine heartfelt love for Jim. So in Treasure Planet, not only does Jim have his story and his character arc to go through, but we also have Silver in his own. And of course, parts of those arcs cross over with each other. This makes Silver the hero in his own story, which he very much is. Treasure Planet isn't just telling Jim's story, it's telling Silver's. Part of Silver's appeal to me is the mystery he is shrouded in. We never get told much about Silver's past, similar to like the character of the Joker. This does two things. One, which is allowing the audience to make their own backstory for the character, which as we all know is a brilliant form of storytelling. but it keeps Silver and his actions shrouded in mystery. Why does he do the things he does? Why didn't he just keep Jim at arm's reach so when he ultimately betrays him, he could have easily got rid of him? If we knew more about him, we would question it, and his actions would become facts rather than keeping the audience guessing. I love that Silver is shrouded in mystery, something modern cinema generally doesn't go as often with characters today. Even when Jim asks about his leg and his arm, we get one of my favourite lines in the whole film.
You give up a few things, chasing a dream.
Was it worth it?
I'm hoping it is, Jimbo.
In 3 lines of dialogue, we go from sadness to curiosity to positivity. In a world of films where everything gets explained, Silver manages to make us feel raw emotion from something we don't know anything about. The mystery disguising Silver is part of what makes him interesting. We never know if he's our friend, our enemy, or perhaps both. Even in other forms of the character, we are told he lost his leg serving in the Navy under Admiral Hawke, but even this is never confirmed and is most likely seen to be a lie to cover his tracks. So we know that Silver lives off his own mystery and the fact that everyone has their own theories about where he came from. Part of Silver's appeal, not only in this film but throughout all media, is his stereotypical pirate way. Now, as much as pirates in history have been dramatized in books and films, we can't excuse the feeling we get when they're represented in that media, seen as adventurers of the sea who sail by their own laws and don't conform to traditional society. I think what makes this version of Silver the most complex is he very much leans to the anti-villain trope. In the original novel, while Silver is a mentor to Jim, he is still very much the villain, and he makes his betrayal all the more heartbreaking when it does happen. However, in Treasure Planet, while the character is the villain of the piece, he is more redeemable, as not only does he give Jim the money for his mother to rebuild the inn, but he isn't as violent and he shows genuine remorse for his own actions, especially when it comes to Jim. So when Jim does let him go at the end of the film, it's not out of sadness because of his betrayal, but out of their friendship and care for one another. Silver is an amazing villain. He's complex, layered, and has so much emotional depth, not only just to the characters, but to the audience. He's a man of adventure, knowledge, and emotion, and despite the possibility of him having a very shady past, he is someone we can yearn to be like. And so for me, that's what makes Long John Silver one of the best villains, no, one of the best characters in Disney history. So thank you for joining me in this video. Let me know in the comments section if you have any characters you would like me to talk about in animation. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that thumbs up button and like and subscribe to the channel for more great content on all things animation, and make sure to click on one of my other videos like this one on the screen right here. Thank you so much for watching me, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.